Hello world and happy hacking and welcome to webdevcourses.tv. My name is Mark and today I'll be your instructor and we're doing UX/web design using TailwindCSS for developers, because developers also need to be able to write CSS that doesn't look completely terrible. How's everybody doing? I want to welcome those of you who are watching us on Twitch, and I want to welcome those of you who are watching us on YouTube. You guys can chat at any time. I'm probably not going to stop necessarily to say hello. How come my monitor's gone? Uh-oh. I just lost my OBS monitor. Shoot. No, no signal, nothing. Hold on one second. That messes up all of my windows. All of my windows are now moved around. I can't access any of my OBS stuff now. It's all locked in this thing that's gone. Unplug it and plug it back in or something. I gotta have this other monitor. Otherwise I can't run the show. Technical difficulties, guys. Give me just a second. Back on? Okay. Sorry about that, guy. Technical difficulties. Sort of my specialty. All right, let's find a web browser and window to look at. How about that? How about that? This was a class earlier. Let's open a folder. We need to go into our UX design. I'll have to change that so the day 2 is actually inside of it. All right, so day 2. Day 1, we went through a bunch of like Tailwind classes, some basic stuff, but we did it all like static, where our files weren't being rebuilt necessarily. Today, we're not going to do that. Today, we're going to go straight to the JavaScript solution. I don't need this for right now, so I'll get rid of it. TailwindCSS. In the docs, under setup, using a preprocess. If we have a basically a website that uses Webpack, we can include PostCSS in our Webpack. PostCSS is going to allow us to essentially rebuild this each time we change something. Let's see. Is there, using PostCSS, this is not going to deal with our HTML files yet, though. Let's just give this a shot. Let's pretend like we've never done this before. I don't need that one. Close that window. Open that one. All right, so the first thing, npm init, I'm going to do a yarn init -- yes. Okay, so what does that give us? It just gives us a package JSON right now. Let's go ahead and add our dependencies for development. So yarn, and now it's going off again. Yarn add -D for the development dependencies, Tailwind CSS, post CSS. The reason why these are development dependencies is because Tailwind itself doesn't get deployed to the production servers. The CSS will get generated. So imagine like Tailwind CSS is, I don't know, 14,000 lines long. That's the whole file. If you only use 5 of the classes in Tailwind CSS, so you don't need 14,000 lines of code. You need whatever lines of code for those 5 things. So that's the process that happens through this purge command that's probably here somewhere, content. So we have to tell it what's the content that we're trying to keep. So right now it's set up for src. Okay, so fine, we'll create an src folder. In our src folder, we're going to have an index.html file. We're going to have a index.javascript file. We're going to have some CSS files. Let's have our source file first. So we need to tell, let's see, we need our main CSS. Let's call that global, let's call that, yeah, just global.css. I'll just call it styles.css. I'm not trying to like create a giant project. Okay, npm run dev, except that I'm pretty sure we don't have an npm run dev. There's no script tag here. There's nothing that would actually run this. There's a command we can use that will run this, and it'll watch our directory. So for now, I guess let's run that. So we want to watch src src/styles.css. And let's just put these out in the same folder for right now. It'll be easier. And actually, honestly, it'll be easier if we don't even have an src folder, because otherwise I'll have to reopen this project. Actually, yeah, I'll just move them out here and dump them in the root. Delete that folder. I don't need it. Okay. Why did I do that? And why do I have to change this? Because we changed the folder structure. So the root, all the HTML and JavaScript files will trigger this. Okay. So right now, it's going to try to build the style CSS into, did I name it something else? Output CSS. Let's call it, actually, you know what? Output CSS is fine. So like output CSS right now will just have the resets. It's not going to have any of the stuff that I actually am using because I'm not using anything yet. So let's change that. We've got our HTML file here. Let's do an HTML5 tag. Let's do a, what? Not an HTML5 tag, an HTML5 template. All right, so we need a link rel to our style sheet, which is just going to be ./output.css. Inside of our body tag, maybe we just give it a class of like BG gray 900 opacity 90 text white. So there's a couple of classes that we should see here. And then let's add h1 hello world. And let's open this up in our previewer. So I'm not starting a web browser or anything. I'm just going to use the built-in previewer. So right now we know that Tailwind is working because we have a background, the text is white, and there's no h1 styling. Okay, what if we wanted to contain this? The fact that it's like all the way over there on the left-hand side, that's just not good practice. You're going to want a main around your main content. You're going to want, you know, a header for your header content, your footer tag for your footer content. We also need to give this a class. It's going to be a container. And we're going to give it MX Auto. MX Auto is going to put an equal margin to the left or the right for all of the stuff that doesn't fit on the current container. What does that look like? Well, let's switch it to responsive. So if we go to like an iPhone, this is the size of the thing. You'll notice there's no padding or margin here. If we switch to a Galaxy, it's smaller, there's no padding or margin. If we switch to an iPad, sometimes there's a little bit of padding or margin here, right? If we get rid of responsive and we go back to the size of my desktop, there's a little bit of padding here. There's breakpoints that are in Tailwind CSS. We can also override those. We could say, by the way, if you want to look at the breakpoints, you can just hover over any CSS class, utility class in Tailwind. If you have the Tailwind CSS IntelliSense extension. Once you have that, you can really just use good Tailwind practices and then look at how they create the CSS, and you can learn a lot about how to write good CSS this way. The thing about the CSS that's in all these utility classes is they're already all browser tested. It's already cross-browser, cross-platform. Like everything is already tested for you. If you go writing your CSS by hand, it's very likely that you're going to end up with something that's going to be radically different from one place to the next. I want to override this. I want to say that for small screens, it's only a width of 1/2 maybe. And now you can see there's a lot more margin on the left and the right. And if you're ever curious about like how to see this, if we do a border left and a border right, we'll be able to see where this content is. So it doesn't have a padding, it just has a margin. Let's add a padding of 4. Okay, so now we can see our, well, we don't want to do it there because then we're going to get it here. Let's put it instead this level so that our lines go to the top. What if we wanted these lines to like go all the way down the page? Well, we could just say height, screen overflow, Y, scroll. And then you could scroll like inside of this page. I don't want that. It's just fun to play with. So if we do that, we're going to see this sort of behavior. What happens if we have a bunch of p tags in there? Let's do p with a lorem inside times, I don't know, 12. Okay, so let's do another, let's actually undo that, and let's say 20. Okay, and now we get to see why using width screen and width or height screen, not always good. You see how like after the load, it doesn't recalculate. So I don't really like that. I would say there's a better way of doing it. I'm not really too concerned about exactly how it goes right now, but if we do the width full, height full, like you can see that you get the whole thing now. If we took off all of that stuff, let's go back. If you see this and you get this problem, it's because the body doesn't have it. So width full still doesn't have it. If you look at width full, it's just 100%, right? So maybe we have to set a min width full. Still not doing it. If I set this to screen, I get that. Okay. If I put my lorems back, back to the original problem, right? And that's because one is actually occluding the other. When you have stuff like this and you're trying to figure out like what's going on, I would say that your best bet is use borders. So if we put a border around this whole thing, and let's say border red 600 and border, now we're going to see like a very obvious, this is where this thing exists. Let's do the same thing above. And this one, let's change it to something like blue. Now what you'll find here is this behavior. You can see that the blue is set to screen, and therefore the 100% of the other thing doesn't work. Get rid of the height screen for a minute. So now, if the content pushes down, sorry, I got some in my eye. If the content pushes down, you can see that the red box is where it's supposed to be now. Okay, how do we get the middle ground, right? How do we get to where we don't have to have a whole bunch of content loaded into this thing and we still get the result we want? Well, let's paste our stuff back in. Let's do, well, even just there. That's supposed to take the screen, right? What if we did minimum 8 screen? Now you can see that the blue has the whole screen. Okay. What if we did min H full? Actually, I don't think there is a min H full. Min height, I guess there is, but it's not expanding. Actually, why is it not expanding? That should do, well, I guess I can do min H screen. This monitor's going out again. Hopefully it doesn't kill my zoom when that happens. So then you got this. Let's do overflow. Where's my scroll bar here? Overflow auto. Overflow Y auto. I don't want an X. Okay, so now we can get rid of the borders, or we can set the, I guess we could do this. By default, actually no, Tailwind through its reset will make the box model correct, I'm pretty sure. Let's get rid of these borders for a minute. See if that changes the scroll behavior. Because I think that's just like we're 1 pixel over, and so we get that tiny scroll behavior. What is going on? Something crash? Like my live previewer. Seems to have died. All right, let's try to restart it. Automatically start. Reveal. Show preview. Ah, it's a different port now. Changing ports on me. There we go. All right, so we were going to get rid of the whiteboard. And now our scroll bars disappear because those borders were actually what was pushing us over. All right, so what if we did, this has a BG color, or BG gray, that was at 800, gray 800. So now you can see like it takes up the space that you want. It'll stretch to more if you need. It's just going to look a lot nicer if this is what you're looking for. If this is the sort of look you're looking for. Give it some shadow so that it like sticks up off the page. What's up, Bobby Sick? How you doing? Welcome on Twitch. Welcome on YouTube. This is UX for developers. And I'm just trying to show you the basics of setting up Tailwind and using Tailwind in a fashion where like you're not the best developer in the world maybe, or the best designer in the world, but you can create stuff that is not just semantically yummy in your HTML and CSS, but it's also just easy on the eyes. And you'll see lots of sites on the internet and you're like, oh yeah, that was like the developers never had a designer work with them on that. Let's say that this is text 4XL. It's sort of like our hero. Now, you don't want to ignore your fonts. Let's make this black. Let's make the leading on this 5 and a tracking of widest. So tracking is going to be between the characters. And the leading is between the lines. So if we did like a, actually, I don't think a BR tag has leading. No, it doesn't have leading. But if we did something like hello world and happy hacking. Once this wraps, that's when the leading is going to take over. In fact, let's just do a lorem. So the leading is now being interacted with. Also, let's change the widest to some tracking that's not quite so silly. That's a lot better. So leading 1, leading 3. Okay, so leading 3 is like really, really tight. Leading 7. Leading 8. Okay, so leading loose. It's a little bit too much, right? So what I would do is I would do leading dash with that extension that I said installed, and then just look through these and see what you get. Like what happens when it's relaxed? What happens when it's normal? What happens when it's snug? You know, just go through them and like see what they actually do. See how they feel to you, because you're going to find that you're going to get used to a certain thing that feels right. What I want usually is like a line height of either 1.75 or 1.8 basically. For me, that's just regular leading at this level, which would be this. To me, that's about right. I guess you could make an argument that relaxed a little better. What about 7, 8. Is there a 10? I don't think there's a 10. They don't have all of them, but here's another thing you can do. For rem. You can use just-in-time compiler to change this, I think. Yeah, line height for rem. So we should be able to do like a line height of 2.5, and then we would get like literally a 2.5 line height. Line height of 1. Nope, it's not doing that. Actually, I'm not getting any of these to... Do I have just-in-time set up? Does it happen automatically? Maybe it doesn't happen automatically in this. Pretty sure the new version happens automatically. 30 rem, which should be like a ridiculous amount of leading. No, it works. That's how you can find out. Okay, so 3, 2, honestly 2.5 maybe, or maybe I can't do those numbers. Maybe that's what it doesn't like. It doesn't like things like 3.5 apparently. No, well, 3.2. No, it doesn't. It'll take a 3. It'll take a 4. But it's not going to take a 3.5. Okay, that's fine. Whatever. You could change this from this to pixels. You could say, if that's 16, so 16 times 3, you know, just say, I want to make it 40. 40 pixels. Then you say, well, what does it look like at 50 pixels? And you can just play around until you get the exact number you want. 46 pixels. That's looking about right to me. What about tracking? Could you do the same thing? Could you do a 1 pixel tracking? Well, you could, but it's really wide. The nice thing about this one is this one definitely does allow you to do like a 0.5 px, I think. I'm pretty sure it does. Yeah. So 0.1 px would have hardly any. A 0.01 px would have basically none. A 0.9 px would basically have 1. Yeah, so maybe like a 0.4. Still a little bit too tall still. 42, the answer of the universe, and I would say a good space for this. When I look at these two right here, I sort of see it. Maybe it just needs to be bold. Maybe there's semi-black. There's not. There's bold, there's extra bold, and there's black. Extra bold. And let's take this part of this off. Turn it into an incomplete Latin sentence. Put a lorem underneath. So there needs to be more space between these two elements, for sure. Here's how I would do it. I'm sure Kevin Powell or somebody else would do it a different way, and I love Kevin Powell. I would say, actually, I think him and I would do this one the same. If we have a style CSS and we want to apply, like maybe we don't want to put all the class names here. Maybe we want to say, look, all my H1s, they look the same. Well, if all my H1s look the same, I could just do @apply, and I can move that here. Save this. Refresh, there it is. So now I've got the styles moved out of here. I would do the same thing for the p tag. I would say, look, my general p tag, I would probably install Tailwind Pros too, which does a lot of this stuff for you. Apply max width of, I don't know. What is 80 columns, 80 characters? Is there an 80 character? I don't think there is. CSS units car. Yeah, if you're using fixed widths, but we're not. But still, I guess it's not horrible. So now you can see like it cuts things off here. This is used by newspapers. I'm not sure what the character limit is for newspapers, but it's this concept where columns are much easier to read than really, really long text. So I would say that, you know, maybe we have like a 54 character limit here. I don't like that. 58. 60. 70? 70 looks about right to me. Okay. P tags also shouldn't run into previous content, and they shouldn't run into stuff after them. Just to see if it's working. We're not getting it, and maybe it's because P tag is an inline. It's not taking a margin. It should still take a margin. Let's switch this to a padding just to see if we get a result. Now we got a result. So there's definitely a difference between the margin. Let's do this. Let's just do just in time. Set a 100 px on that. Set a 200 px on it. Set a 400 px on it. The idea is to like see if you're affecting the thing, right? Because there's a lot of times where like you've got a P tag, it's getting the stuff that it's supposed to be getting. It has our margins. Actually, it doesn't have the latest margin. Now it has the latest margin. Okay, so this command is taking a long time to run. That's what that means. Rebuilding. Oh yeah, that's slow. Very slow. If you're running like you know, something with Webpack, you wouldn't get this issue. It wouldn't be this slow. So we have to just refresh it until it hits. There it goes. Okay, so what I would say is this is probably a 6 to an 8. Let's try a 6. Give it a chance to rebuild. That looks better. I also think that this one up here is still too long. It's too much. So how about we define our own prose? We have a class called prose. And I guess if you put Tailwind prose on this, it would screw it up quite majorly. Let's not do that. Let's go ahead and put our max character here. And let's cut this off from the beginning and put it on the end so that they're at least in the same place. Any day now. Oh, it's a huge font. Is it done? Yeah, it's done. Let's do something silly like 10. Still building. There. Okay, so maybe with these giant characters, we're looking at like a 30. A little bit less. 27. Good number. Be part of the 27 club. Still not quite happy with it. And this is what designers get paid to do. Where you're debugging your butt off, refreshing, changing code, refreshing. They're just, you know, change the font, take a look, change the weight, take a look. I love my designer brothers and sisters. I wish I had their job. They got so much money to play with fonts and stuff. See, that's the problem. Once it gets to there, it's too much. Let's take it down to something like 26. I think we found a winner. I think 26, and then I think we boost the text. And of course we wait. There we go. But now this leading is going to have to change. And the tracking will probably have to change. Not quite. It's supposed to do it automatically, but it's not. So there we go. I would say that's good. It needs a little bit more padding in here. Okay, so we've got this container class. We've got these responsive modifiers in here. We've got a padding of 4 on it. Still not quite good enough. Padding, like, you can't underestimate the quality of padding in whitespace. Can you ask anything? If it's you can ask if it's related to Tailwind, or you can join us on one of the other sessions where your question is relevant. Yeah, this was 24-hour live React, but we're doing classes now because that's what people wanted. Let's see, what web app are you making? We're not making a web app. I'm just showing you like what you need to know as a developer when it comes to designing UX. You don't have to be a great designer. Using a tool like Tailwind will really boost your ability to like not produce really garbagey looking interfaces. So sure, you're writing it in React, you're writing it in Svelte, you're writing it in Angular, you're writing it in whatever. But there's a clear difference between work that's handed to you by the developer who has never even thought about fonts or weights or kerning or tailing, or like tracking. They haven't thought about any of that stuff, or how do different colors contrast or complement? What are the different modes? I'm telling you that if, as a developer, if you're trying to get jobs, we're about to enter a new phase of technology. So many people have been laid off. Companies are going to start getting picky again. They're not going to be hiring for those who are just politically the right viewpoint, which is what has happened for like the last 10 years. A new thing is happening now, where there's so many people who have hardly any skills. They just have the right political viewpoint. They can't just sit in Twitter and drink wine all day anymore. They actually have to work for a living. That means they're out on the job market. All these people that are getting fired and they're out on the job market, all these people are going to be competing with you for work. But don't worry, Uncle Mark has your back. All you have to do is have better work than the guy next to you. And if the guy next to you is just there to be an activist and doesn't actually spend much time with their craft, you will get the job, not them. So what I'm trying to show you here is, as a developer, if you just practice a little bit with, like, say, your Tailwind so that you can make pretty stuff. When you do sit down to do a coding interview and they're like, okay, I need you to create a card element. I want you to make it flip around with React, you know, and I want it to have, you know, like when you click on this thing does something. There's the tale of two developers. The person that sits down and produces something that looks something like this. It's easy on the eyes, it's easy to read, versus the guy that does actually, I could leave those in and just take this out. Versus the guy that gives you this. There's a big difference. And most developers will give you not, this honestly looks better than what most developers will give you. Most developers will give you something that's completely unresponsive and horrible to look at. So this class is like, I'm a developer, but I have to do some UX design in my job. I have to interface with designers. I have to talk with designers. I have to work as a freelancer or a contractor. There is no designer. I need to be able to show mock-ups quickly to the client and say yes or no and make changes so that I can get to the coding part. So that's stuff that we're doing here. And what time is it? 12:40. We are 5 minutes left to answer questions. I want to thank Jeremiah Quill, Thomas Lawrenson, and Chris Loggins for donating to the channel. They shot that tip jar. And, you know, you can donate $2, you can donate $1, you can donate $5, you can donate $100. How much money you're spending a day on stupid shit? I'm giving you a free education here. You can pay me in rupees, you can pay me in yen, you can pay me in euro. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. It doesn't even go to me, really. It goes to my wife. So if you want to support the show, if you want to support my family, as this is a small business and the wife works here and the nephews work here, and you know, that's basically their money for when I'm not here anymore. I'm trying to train them up. I'm trying to make it so that, like, if I go, yeah, sure, everybody's gonna be sad, hopefully. Hopefully they have an Irish wake for me and not a Mexican wake. And hopefully the nephews can do my kind of job so that they can help take care of my wife. And hopefully my wife learns some skills doing this YouTube thing. So that maybe that she can start working for other channels doing the same sort of thing that we did here. That's the plan. The same with you. My plan is to replace myself. My plan is not to compete with you in the job market. I would destroy you. I don't want to destroy you. I like you. In fact, I could say I love you. Okay? I don't care who you are. I don't care what color skin, who you like to fuck, what religion you are. None of that stuff matters to me. You're watching this thing. You like to code. You like to build stuff. You're my friend. That's the way I look at it. I don't want to compete with you in the job market either. I want to take everything that's inside of this head and I want to just spill it out into these sessions for you for free. So you don't have to spend a bunch of money to boot camp. You don't have to spend a bunch of money going to university for web development. Like, university is great for some things. It's you don't go to university to learn web development. And honestly, you don't have to go to university to learn how to program. You have to go to university to learn computer science. Computer science and programming are not the same thing. So I guess that's it for today. We're going to be back for, well, not it for today. That's it for this lesson. We're going to be doing, I already did the comments. We're going to be doing 7 p.m. databases CRUD. We're doing MongoDB. We're doing, look, there's lots of stuff that you're probably used to in SQL. And then when you go to Mongo, you're like, I don't know how to do any of that stuff. How do you do joins? How do you do unions? How do you do this? Where are the foreign keys? I show you all of that. And then at 8 p.m., we're going to be building an RPG game using JavaScript. And we got the background loaded. We got the character loaded. It's time to make the character walk around that big, beautiful graphic that we have there. And that's all being done in Canvas, and we're trying to write it as functional as possible. So if that seems like the kind of content that you're interested in, make sure to hit that like, make sure to hit that subscribe. Thank you for hanging out with me today. I hope you guys all survived Turkey Day, and I'll see you in just a few minutes.